So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the SAT essay. Now, a lot of people find the essay pretty threatening and frustrating, but the good news is that once you're comfortable with what you're going to be asked about and what graders are looking for, you'll be in great shape. So let's look at the basics here. First off, you'll be given a prompt on test day, not in advance, and you'll have 25 minutes to write a draft that addresses that prompt. When you do, they'll give you 2 lined pages to write on. And finally, it's worth knowing that no outside materials are allowed, whether that's dictionaries or thesauruses or spell checks. You'll have to do without. As for scoring, that's going to be done by 2 trained graders. Each one will give you a score from 1 to 6 for a total of 12. And FYI, you can get a 0, but it'll be hard work. You'll have to be totally off topic or leave the whole page blank. And scoring is tough. You might be used to saying like a 6 out of 6 is a good result or a 5 out of 6 would be a good result, but the average score on the SAT essay is actually 3 or 4 out of 6. It's pretty incredible. On the plus side, the scoring is holistic, which means the graders are looking at the big picture. So it's not the case that as soon as you miss the spelling of some word, you automatically miss your perfect score. Rather, they're just trying to see if overall you understand what good structure looks like, good evidence looks like, good analysis looks like, and you can pull that all together in a 25-minute draft. And lastly, it's worth being aware that about 1/3 of your writing score comes from the essay. The other 2/3 is from the multiple choice in the rest of the writing section. With that out of the way, let's look at your plan of attack for the essay. So when it comes to the essay, your plan of attack has 4 parts right here. First of all, we're going to talk about what's important. What are the graders expecting from you? What do they value? So that you know what to give them. Next up, we're going to talk about the formula. What is the structure of a good SAT essay? What do you need to do to make the graders happy? Next up, the timeline. How should you allocate your 25 minutes to make the most of that limited amount of time that you do have? And lastly, what are some of the do's and don'ts to watch out for? What gets people? Let's start with number 1, what's important. First of all, length is so important. Let me read you a quote that came out in the New York Times when the new writing section came out a few years ago. Here goes. If you just graded the essays based on length without ever reading them, you'd be right over 90% of the time. The shortest essays, typically 100 words, got the lowest grade of 1. The longest, about 400 words, got the top grade of 6. In between, there was virtually a direct match between length and grade. Pretty amazing. So now, I'm not saying that you should write as much as possible if it means that you're completely incoherent, if you don't have a point, if you have no structure, and certainly not if you're repeating the same word over and over again. But length is really important. I've read some beautiful essays, because you will get a copy of your essay back after you take the SAT, and seen that sometimes essays are really well written, but because they're so short, they don't get good grades. So it's really important to have a long essay with lots of examples, analysis, and then of course an intro and conclusion. So keep that in mind. Length is so important. You'll also need clear structure, and we'll talk a lot about that during the formula part of the plan of attack. Examples are crucial, and they need to be specific and relevant.